Hello, everyone. We are talking with a few partners that we have collaborated with in the past. And the idea is to pull our strengths together so that we can help the governments in enabling their cybersecurity in the latest round of funding. And we are live. One city manager, Rob Lloyd, once he joins in, we can promote him to the speaker. If you are here, please let us know. But in the meantime, we're continuing our session. So this is the big challenges that there doesn't seem to be any dispute. Any disputes about the challenges? Okay, let me go back to the challenges. Okay, yeah, and then the three innovations that we have done in the past. Let me share them quickly as well, so you can see if you are interested in any of this. And then we'll also share, say, people like Keith, you also have initiatives that's in the pipeline. So let's share them, and then everyone also can share in with innovative ideas yourselves, so that like myself, I talk with city leaders, we can, and Keith, and everyone may have channels, and we can figure out the best way to get into the proposals. Okay, so very quickly, I'll share the three initiatives that we have done. The first one is regional governance. The San Francisco Bay Area's 14 counties and cities did it with URC funding. And so they could also emulate the good example in other states. So as long as you have, say, three connections with three cities, for example, in your region, then potentially you can take this to them, and they can include it in their proposal. So this already has been done, is successful. Earlier you heard Maitjian from URC mentioning about the regional centers of excellence. So those are built on top of the regional initiative that we help them do. The second one is the certificate course. Earlier also you heard, hopefully you heard, a few of the attendees of that course came to speak, and pretty much everyone spoke highly of the course, and they said they will recommend the course to their colleagues. And that's just, I think that's many more people who did not come to the stage also had similar comments, including Paul. Paul, who is here on the stage here with us, right, Paul? Can speak to it as well. So if any local governments on this, they don't need to include it in their plan. For now. The third opportunity is we already tentatively have a local government who is going to explore building up a plan into their proposals. And this is the Cybercorp or Digital as Capital. And Keith, this will also shortening or narrowing the gaps in the workforce, the three gaps that you mentioned. So basically it's a initiative that will recruit volunteers who will mentor students, and they formulate a team together to help small businesses who maybe may get the funding from their local governments to go online.
Love it, Lan.
And so this is already excellent.
I love that idea. What a great way for workforce development to get these students doing audit, remediation plans, et cetera, for small and medium-sized businesses, of which many never return to business after a breach or an incident.
That's right. Okay, that's great, Keith. So if you think we can also explore together on this, I can connect with local governments like CIOs, city managers, and CISOs. And then hopefully we can get this into California.
Lana, I've done a pilot. I can probably share that offline with you. We did a pilot in fall of 2021.
Okay, excellent. And Niloufer, that's exactly right. You have been a leader in providing mentoring, right? You have a group of people who mentor, fresh talent. So, and I also have been in talks with Code for America. And so potentially we have even more talent with digital skills, not just cybersecurity, but digital skills to all work together on this. Okay, so I'm taking notes. If anyone would like to be included in such, then I will take note and will keep the conversation going in the proposal drafting and all. Okay, so those are all my pitches towards the $1.1 billion grant. Another Keith and folks, there is another one that I'm aware of. It's called High Road in California, and it is for workforce development. Keith, would you be interested in working together on that?
No, by all means, like we indicated before, there really are workforce gaps, all of which function as a viable education funding mechanism. We really are talking about the broader 769,000 current cybersecurity workforce gap and how to fill that. We could also view a reliance on education, 4-year and 6-year degree programs for those graduates. That means that we're going to need to prepare 500,000 cybersecurity and related graduates in the next. We need them tomorrow, right? We need them last week. The third, of course, is just this idea that we have 65% staffing and that we operate on a skeleton crew. We need to enhance our workforce preparation and education training components. Each one of those is absolutely a viable finance funding strategy, whether you're going with a public foundation, the private side, whether you're going through legislative and grant, general grant funding. I mean, whichever approach you go, all of these areas are very high demand right now. And to put together a competitive proposal that includes a variety of strategies to bring incarcerated youth or homeless or otherwise folks that are housing insecure, what about bringing those folks into a viable opportunity for careers and their family? What about foster kids and the bad outcomes they currently have? We need pathways for all of those folks to get into cybersecurity and IT in general, and funding is the way to make it happen. So absolutely, you always count me in if funding is a question.
Yeah, hey, Len, this is Maitjian. I would love to collaborate on that as well, since I have developed and teaching the cybersecurity for supply chain in University of Santa Cruz Extension for professionals, and I'm getting students coming through as well. I think we need both to increase the skill set for the workforce in the IT space and also training new workforce from the school.
Okay, so Yeah, so that would be great. You are adding a dimension of training. Okay. And Keith, I understand you also have the curriculum for already developed, ready to be incorporated if we work together on a proposal.
Well, like for example, if you're talking about the first proposal in which we would be hiring or having students or apprentices work with small and medium-sized businesses within their community, I think there's a variety of funding sources that we could go to there. I think that what we'd really want to do is go with the CIS top 18 controls, have students fan out into the community supporting their small and medium-sized businesses by running a quick cybersecurity audit, and asking them a bunch of questions and pointing out some areas of remediation. And in areas of severe remediation, I think that the Chamber of Commerce, SBA, or others, if there are known deficiencies in small and medium-sized cybersecurity planning and such, that, it becomes the onus on them to make sure these assets and resources are protected. And I think the grant writes itself if we can show that there is a dramatic need. And particularly, I heard that 45% of businesses, small and medium businesses, that experience a hack or ransomware never reopen their doors. Is that the kind of thing that any of our business-friendly organizations want to see ever happening? Whether you're the SBA, Chamber of Commerce, or a financial business development wing of a state government.
Yeah, I think the percentage is even higher, Keith, because my company work in supporting a lot of the small, medium-sized businesses, and when they get attacked, you seeing this business just close their shop. So I think there's a lot of I can even use a lot of these workforce that we train up to do a lot of these assessment, like you say, the 18 control or the 15 control from the basic safeguarding. There's a number of them. NIST provided a whole bunch of those framework that we can use, depending on what level of work you're doing with the government. So we can help, start small, start now.
Yes.
So I have a couple of comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely appreciate the work that everybody has contributed to here, right? And I am elected in office, and I can tell you from a technical perspective as well as from a layman's perspective, there's a couple of channels that you have to look at. For example, this groundbreaking funding that we have, there's two channels to it. One is community anchor institutions. The other is local government. The challenges that you have with local government is, knowledge and skill set. I can tell you earlier this year, I sat with Jenson explaining to actually the president of one of the boards that I sit on, breaking it down to English, right? Making it so that she understood, not from a technical perspective, but relating it back to basic values like, hey, you have a house, it's unsecure, and you want to put, you have all these gates open. We broke it down to that language, which made it easier for her to go to a conference and actually moderate on a panel. So the challenges that we have from a local government perspective needs to be, those barriers are basically understanding and layman's language. From a community anchor institution, it's the same issue that we have, unless the anchor institution is focused specifically on the needs that you have. The funding measures that are, there's once in a lifetime funding measure, which is going to go on for the next 5 years, requires that you have to come in with some planning first before that they would allocate that larger grant. And it's important for us as industry advocates in this to work with local governments, get them to buy in, work with our chambers to make sure that we make it and simplify it from a language perspective. I could tell you that they're not prioritizing it as much because of the fact that they're waiting for folks to give them the answers. And one of the things I've always said to a lot of elected bodies, elected districts, is bring in the experts. Because I'll tell you, when I got elected to my sanitary district, they were using store-bought like equipment, routers, right, that didn't have the security patches for the commercial grade that the commercial grade equipment possesses, and the periodic updates as a result. So my recommendation to the general manager was bring in an expert and do a risk assessment. And through that risk assessment, you can find a lot of answers. And from there, you can make some decisions. Experts such as those on this panel is what's critical to assess all those different risks. But the problem is, the understanding is not there.
Yeah, so you raise a great point in that we need champions like yourself who can connect the dots for us, right? I'm seeing that. Yeah, I'm seeing that like Keith. Oh, hey, Ahbi, also wonderful having you here. Can be the connectors, and so if we together come up with a very viable and robust plan, then these connectors can then carry them to the various channels that can provide funding. So in light of that, I consider myself as one potential connector as well, because I have some local governments that we can, connections that we can present a good plan to for funding. And Ahbi here also has such channels because you already have some clients. And so we could work together as a team. The way that Ahbi and I discussed earlier, and Maitjian as well, right? Is that, hey, we are executing a project for someone, for some local government. It's just, say, a penetration test or cyber risk assessment, but we have the relationships. And based on that, we can also present the services of the other partners to them. Say, hey, do you actually need a multi-year planning so that you have a roadmap developed and you can present the proposal and budget to your funding, your executive funding committee or something. So basically it's to facilitate their work before they have to find something in a short amount of time. So that's another thing that we discussed. At this point, Keith, would you like to also ask the group some things that you think can help us as a group to gain opportunities to enable more local governments and schools?
So there are a variety of strategies that we need to be embracing these days to move the needle forward in cyber and security, and we mean this very broadly in network security and cloud security. I mean, there's so many different forms of security right now. It's hard to keep track of all of them. So I mean, cyber in that sense is a useful term. But how do we build a collaborative framework to get our partners in the private sector and the public sector, the employers together with the education and the training networks and the workforce third-party intermediaries and other support mechanisms that we have into an education pipeline that we can funnel a variety of students from all backgrounds and walks of life into, make this an accessible program for them. It starts off with general academic resiliency and making for better students. And then in the later grades turns into the CTE or career technical education stuff, and then into the workforce. I think that one solid plan here would be to work with all the key partners to develop a variety of volunteer or apprenticeship or train the trainer types of programs where we could support small and medium-sized business in the way that we discussed. That is that their hours, their work would be involved with working with small and medium-sized businesses in the way that a previous speaker spoke to them about, you know, making sure that they're using the right kinds of equipment and they have the right kinds of patch management process. I mean, you know, the thing about small and medium-sized businesses, the proprietor could just as easily be their security team as well. And they're busy out doing sales, and they're not busy necessarily making sure they have the best password or their firewall's up to speed. So that's the kind of thing that we could do through this controls audit based on NICE and others. I mean, that's the other problem. There are so many different frameworks out there about how information security should be rendered upon your small, medium-sized business. A bunch of experts couldn't figure out all the different ones. Why would we expect a small and medium-sized business? We drop an old telephone book, the white and yellow pages. We drop an old telephone book of regulations and have them pour through this for their best practices. We don't need that. We do the control audit for them, the remediation plan, and anything that's really significant, we farm upstream. Just imagine the benefit to cyber insurance. And that was the last thing I wanted to mention. Prepare medium business for cyber insurance types of due diligence, because folks, they don't pay out like they used to. And if you don't show your due diligence, they're not going to pay out at all. And other liabilities.
I can speak to that. Even for such a small nonprofit, I'm paying through the nose over 10 grand because they are not giving good fact-based insurance rates, etc. Anyway, so I also noticed that, hey, Rob is here.
Sorry for the lag. I had to respond to an earthquake.
Oh, no, in San Jose.
5.0 around 11:45 here in the Bay Area. So just had to do some of our emergency management.
Felt it.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, you are always at the forefront line, and especially now you're the deputy city manager.
Yeah, for aviation, transportation, and technology.
Well, so we had a little head start, Rob. Let me just wrap up, and perfect timing actually to pick your brain. This is your cutting edge army to lead a revolution, Rob. You are so fitting because for everyone to know also, Rob is definitely a visionary leader, way ahead of time. And Rob has the civic CIO handle on Twitter. So now you're going to have to change it.
I know, I like it. It's pretty epic. I think I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, and that's just to show that not everyone knows that city of San Jose, as a major city in the United States, is very thin and lean. And part of it, Rob, I am connecting the dots. I'm not sure if you agree, is that the city represented by you does such a good job in using free labor like me.
We call them partnerships, but yes.
That's right. But I have to say that throughout, it's a win-win situation because I'm local, I pay taxes, and the whole city, if more small businesses like ours get into this kind of partnership, the city coffers will be richer, less issues. And also, Rob, I'm paying dividends back to the city in droves. I'll share one example. The Suba and Mike can testify to this also. In this summer, we had an intern from East Side High School with us, developing our CRM. And Keith, you mentioned about the collaborative framework. That student helped us develop part of that. It's so that it is enabled right on the CRM, it's scalable. And so San Jose Works facilitated it. And the student had such a fun, meaningful learning experience that he opted to volunteer for an additional week with the nonprofit, even without pay.
Wow, very cool. He liked you a lot.
Yes. Shuba, maybe you can paraphrase what Han said. Hanley is his name. What did he said? Oh, you're on mute, Shuba. Still on mute. Okay. So see if you can unmute yourself. And in the meantime,
audible now?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, we got a chance to work with Hanley, and yeah, he was a high schooler, and when he came in to start working, he was really blank, and we kind of helped him get into the groove, in the sense that we guided him as to how to start learning the basics, and then deliver based on the business requirements. And within few days, he started to grasp everything, and he started liking it, to the extent that, as Lan mentioned, he continued to volunteer with us for an additional week because he didn't want to leave it halfway. I mean, we could really see the difference between how he was, when in the first few days, and how he left us. So that was a transformation we were able to observe. Yeah.
Yeah. One particular thing he said really struck me as, wow, I did not even think of it. He said that someone like me, my family, nobody has connections to any office work environment. So he would not have any ways of getting into an internship like ours. And he was just thinking about other like temporary store clerk, that kind of internships, right? So now he said, I'm going to return next year.
Good.
The opportunity is there. And an opportunity like this provides young people like him, who does not have any family background, an opportunity. And he is so much more confident after the experience.
Yeah, I think you nailed on something important, Lon, is, cybersecurity is, just going back to the importance of the session, is, good, affordable local government. Local governments don't have a ton of resources, and most of the resources that they have are spoken for because people want police services, they want firefighters to arrive, curbs and gutters, parks. And yet it's an existential threat if we don't protect that digital infrastructure well. And one of the great things about the cybersecurity community, and the reason why you have so many people participate in your events, is because we do kind of feel that as a familial alliance, that we all have a vested interest in doing something good here. And one of the things I appreciate about the best of us is that they also perceive the pipeline on the front end, where we don't have enough of the cyber talent, and we don't have people who approach cyber in an operational way. It's often an audit way. So if we get the front end of the pipeline and encourage people and give people opportunity to enter in a great field, you're lifting as you rise. And if we get that operational perspective, we get true cybersecurity warriors rather than auditors or critics, I guess, or critiquers, then we're much more powerful in our armaments against those threats. But the last thing, and you've heard me say this before, is I think we'll know we're at our best when we do have those development programs, but also we have the joint response approach. So like fires and police, if someone's hurting, we're all hurting. How do we align those interests where we can take care of each other? Give talent, give time. And in government, we've generally done that. We helped with New Orleans's cyber attack. We helped with Baltimore's. Some took advice better than others. But we all have that vested interest, and just the compliment and deep appreciation for you and your ability to find good people that are willing to see cybersecurity as a cause rather than a way to make money or a way to hit people over the head.
And that is exactly why, Rob, I think you are the perfect leader to lead a fundamental shift that the cybersecurity landscape needs. Because over the past 3 decades, let's say, every year, the government and private industry, everyone invests a lot of money. And yet every year, do we get any better?
No.
We still, right? So what does Einstein say? What is his saying?
Oh, the insanity, definition of insanity is to do the same thing, expect a different result. And actually, just to build on your point, Lon, we had Jen Easterly, the head of CISA, out back in December. And then a Secretary of Homeland Security was there as well. And they were saying all the things that we say is operational security and partnership. We will never get better without that, because this fragmented solution approach, it's never worked. It's kind of like, your body's hurting and you treat each body part separately, as opposed to just treating the person and the disease. we have a lot of hygiene and investment to do, but our approach is systemically wrong to make anyone safe.
So Rob, I know I'm, Niloufer will come to you right after this, because I have something dying to get out. That is so encouraging to hear, first of all, Rob. And secondly, that's why when I met with Nitin Natarajan, I put this similar questions, right, to him. He is being a very leader, a great leader in that he cannot promise anything. So on the call, he said, we will respect the local governments in proposing innovative solutions, bottoms up. And so as such, I also noted that there might be opportunities lost, right? If you dish out the funds to each individual local government, because what?
There's roughly 30,000 local governments, and if you count districts, you can get up to about 60,000. And of those, 80+% are very small, and they don't even know the language or have the talent. So you're absolutely right.
Exactly. So that then is why I'm looking for leaders such as yourself to see if we could enable you and you be the leader to influence more leaders to help promote more meaningful innovations that can make a seismic change rather than continuing the old path, right? So just before you came on, Keith mentioned about some collaborative framework to help with the workforce. And I also mentioned about a way to help the small businesses. And these two actually work hand in hand together, because one person's problem is another person's solution, actually, right? So only when you combine them together, then you can address it in a fundamental way. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention to you, Rob. And if you are okay with this, then we may be able to meet with you offline to continue and maybe put some high quality proposals on your desk for the Bay Area.
Well, and there's two really good tools. Is our conversations with Jen and Secretary Mayorkas is around that $1 billion, and they're going to have a pretty big say in how that $1 billion of federal aid goes to cybersecurity. And their original approach was to be very state-centric, but we haven't seen states too often be able to help all the way down to local communities. Smaller states, there's been a couple cases, Michigan, a few others, Maryland's doing pretty good work. But absolutely, I think there's money there to be transformative with, and really smart people that have a breadth of perspective from private, local, state. So exactly the right people. Number two is, and you know this, Lon, is in public sector, we buy things to be fair, not to be fast or necessarily smart. So it's kind of like when you raise your kids and you're trying to be fair, you don't always make the smartest choice. It's just you're trying to be super fair. And so we do have to figure out ways to actually procure things in ways that allow us to do it together and allow us to bank on each other's work and still hit that efficient, high value, and fair set of requirements. But it's something to solve. And now I think I've used my word allocation for the day. So I think Niloufer was going to speak, and I just want to say happy Diwali because I think it just ended. But
it's still on. It's like a couple of days.
Oh, is it? All right, cool.
Yeah. So thank you. Lan, I just wanted to mention, and I shared this with Keith. This summer, we had an online boot camp, cybersecurity boot camp for high schoolers. And it was like 5 days, I think 1.5 hours each. And we went through the NIST CSF, basically, just basic idea about like what to do. My expectation was, and I shared it with everybody, I said, okay, if you are interested in a cyber career, great, this will get you started. Now you'll know a little bit more about things. If you are not, at least you will be the CISO of your family. You will now at least go back and, help people be more secure in your this thing with your friends when you talk about them. I said, this is great, because it doesn't matter like whether you are, but now they are like cyber aware. I'm surprised that in our state, we have compulsory financial literacy classes. And when you hand over your kid or a 13-year-old device, a mobile device, there is nothing. So there is like no. So I'm working on a quick like 45-minute free training on what to do when you hand over and making people aware about,
That is wonderful, Niloufer. Very complimentary, right? This group of leaders on this panel all have something to offer and all have a piece of the puzzle. And together we can assemble a full, high-powered proposal, hopefully that can be submitted through one of the states, preferably, Rob, California. Keith, you're on mute.
There is one additional wrinkle here, and that is that current statistics and data indicate that it's not the entry-level cybersecurity role where all of the jobs lie. In some recent federal government calculations, only 14% of currently available cybersecurity jobs are actually on the entry-level side. A whopping 86% of them are mid and advanced level roles. So any funding requests that we should be putting forward should not be stopping at entry-level cybersecurity employment, but should continue up through the various ranks of advancement. We have a retention problem in cybersecurity. The entry-level cyber problem, I'm not sure if that's the case anymore. And research is about to come out on that issue. Lan, I have to jump for another call. I appreciate everybody, and thank you, and see you all tomorrow.
Yeah, see you, Keith. Thank you. So Keith's perspectives can also be incorporated into our plan so that the plan really is very down to earth. And to your point, Rob, about the working with the city, we have the actual example of actually working with your team. I am proud to share that it has been a very mutually satisfactory experience. For us, even though it's slow, but we as a nonprofit and also our subcontractors are in this to enable the whole service. So we are able to do the work happily. And what's also good for the city is that we have multiple teams available to do the project simultaneously. This is an advantage in comparison to just having one large company with one team, right, doing the work in a serial fashion. So there are lots of advantages of working with high quality professional teams, businesses like ours, and the people in the collaborative framework together, Rob, just so to echo what you said. And to add to it, Shuba here has personal experience in that Shuba actually is a volunteer with us. Yeah, but Shuba is able to enable the output of the project for the project, and then is, after your experience, you have now landed on a very fulfilling cybersecurity role. Do you mind saying a few words on that, just very quickly?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I initially have around 4 to 5 years of experience in an industrial controls background, after which I went to do my master's in networking and cybersecurity. And that's when I got in touch with LAN. So I got some cybersecurity related activities, which helped me groom myself as a cybersecurity engineer, as well as groom myself for the US kind of work style. So, I mean, all these skills helped me to get a job. Now I've been hired in NERSC, which is actually here in the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. So it's the job is going to be based on research and other activities based on cybersecurity. But what brought me here, I think Cybertrust America has also a lot of things to do with that. So, I mean, as a person and as a even professionally, I've gained a lot of skills being in Cybertrust America for the last 1.5 years. So yeah, that it's definitely been a very fulfilling experience here.
Thank you, Shilpa. And Shilpa is not alone. Mike also is a volunteer. So it's been proven to work. We just can utilize some opportunities to pivot and grow so that more organizations, the whole cyber risk posture in the country can also get a better chance of getting to where you are at, Rob. So last couple of minutes, I'd like to also just give everyone the floor to introduce a little bit of what you do. I know everyone, so but you don't all know each other. So please use 1 minute each to share, so that Rob also has a little understanding of where you all come from. Maitjian.
All right, thank you. My name is Maitjian Welke, and my company is CMIT Solutions, Silicon Valley. We are IT managed security service provider. That's a full mouth. But I am personally also a certified cybersecurity practitioner by Ahbi to work on CMMC with defense contractor. And I also, because of my passion and commitment to cybersecurity, developed and created a course called Safeguarding Supply Chain for UC Santa Cruz, extension for professionals. So I'm all for bringing more awareness, training, implementing. There's a lot of technologies, as Rob mentioned, a lot of government entities or small businesses don't have the resources like enterprise do, but there are a lot of technologies out there that are easily and affordable that can be implemented to monitor, scan, detect early, all of those that we can implement.
This is why, right, your being part of this is also the same with everyone else here, is why and how we together can provide a cost beneficial and competitive plan together, right? If you don't mind, Ahbi.
Yeah. Yeah, hello, thank you, right? Thank you for the opportunity. Sorry, I was a little late, Lan. And yeah, so my name is Ahbi. I'm based in Seattle, Washington State, two states north. I run a consulting company. It's a systems integration consulting company called SAC, Strategic Alliance Consulting. Our background was mostly from like 4G and 5G telecom-centric universe. For the last few years, we have been quite active in intelligent transportation systems, which included some smart cities. And for the last year or so, we've been very active on the cybersecurity side. We have done a project for San Mateo County, I think mid of last year. It involved like network upgrade and some cybersecurity stuff. And then, yeah, that's where we saw, how vast the county's networks are and the various departments they have. And this, yeah, and it was just a little sad to see the resource crunch over there. Yeah, so this currently we're doing a project for Pierce County up here. And again, same, right? So we're seeing a trend. We're seeing a trend, and yeah, and then I was introduced at the opportunity, good fortune of being introduced to Lan, where she is sort of leading an effort to standardize and help out the public sector. Yeah. And yeah, so that's where we are. We're quite active on the public safety community as well, which is the 911 agencies. So they're not they're not well known, but they're so there's an association called APCO. Okay. So we're part of Washington APCO. We had a conference in Kennewick last month. Yeah. And yeah, so there's a big, so yeah, within the public sector and counties, right? So there are other sub-local agencies which have a very typical requirements, right? So the way the technical architecture for a 911 call taking agency is very different, right? When a call comes in, they have to record the call, and then there's a dispatcher, the person who takes the call as a telecommunicator and such. So there's
So,
so
in
what
a way,
yeah,
basically, what I pick up from what you said, Ahbi, is that you also have very extensive reach in the higher tech arena. And so our consortium has higher end technical experts like your firm. And we also have the starting point groups of people who help other people get into the field, right? So it is therefore a very lively and robust community in that whatever the local governments need, we have a way to reach out to and bring them to the needs of the cities and the counties. In comparison, one singular enterprise, for example, their reach may not be as comprehensive as ours once we have our collaborative framework all set up, right? So that is what I'm thinking that we can follow up on and present it to Rob at some point to see, and Keith, so that we have a chance. Keith also is the co-chair of the education subcommittee of the California state governor's cybersecurity workforce. So he also is tasked with writing proposals for funding, etc. So we can combine that, the state level perspectives and the local government level and community providers, which is all of us. And together we can get the proposal in place. So before we continue on to the others, Rob, a quick question I have is that for the proposal to go into the state, earlier Trent from CISA mentioned a timeline of 60 days. But he said that those 60 days are just for the initial indication of whether a local government is interested in submitting a proposal. But once they have indicated, then they have longer duration to formulate the actual plan. Do you have a timeline for that?
I don't actually. We're still exploring what the language looks like, and there's at least two. I have one link up here. I'll put it in the chat. What we're looking at in terms of the funding sources, there's $1 billion funding source, and there's a $100 million source from the feds, which is recovery. And then the states, we haven't gotten as clear indication from, but we honestly just have more homework to do.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate that. Yeah, and we will also just digest all the links from you and from the other sources, and then we will find the most fitting opportunities to work on, and then get your guidance, Rob.
Yeah, and honestly, it might be more of a joint guidance on this one, because there's a lot of us figuring out how to make this work and how to contend best. What we don't want is small plays eating up too much of the money, but I haven't seen as much clarity from the state so far as I have from the feds, which is interesting to say, because usually states are more attuned. But the Jen's team and working with FEMA, that the federal dollars actually have some very clear purpose in that. So anyway, we'll work together.
I appreciate that. Okay, in the interest of time, maybe Atdhe and Benny and Niloufer have a few quick words to say.
Yes, thanks, Lan.
Yeah. Atdhe?
Yes, hi, I'm Atdhe. My name is Atdhe. I represent my own company, ICT Academy. We have been engaged in the last 10 years in cybersecurity, and mostly on the penetration testing and security assessment for web application, information systems, databases. And lately, the last year, I've been engaged also on research in field. I have done some research work on cybersecurity, mostly focused on the industrial Internet of Things. we are mostly focused lately on that, and we look forward to contribute and for the community on that field. Yeah, thanks.
And Atdhe is based in Kosovo.
Oh, wow.
Yes, in Balkan region, Southeastern Europe. Right now here is late night.
Yeah. So that also gives us around the clock coverage. Benny, you may already know, many people know you as well, maybe very quickly. Rob, you know Benny?
I do.
Yes. So, former council member for the city of San Leandro, currently elected to Orloma Sanitary District. I'm a policy advisor for a number of elected, roughly about 15 elected individuals. I also do consulting work, right, on broadband and wireless, and I work together with Jenson on the the NIST Global Cities Team Challenge, where we're actually developing KPIs to basically help develop scorecards, right, for local governments in terms of understanding where their gaps are from a broadband digital divide as well as cybersecurity perspective.
Thanks, Benny. I did notice that we are 1 minute over, and Mayor and Jonathan, Rob, our good friend Jonathan, are in the audience, I think.
Yeah, I'm actually, I apologize. I'm going to leave to set that one up. I'm serving as a speaker and technical support today, so jumping around, but nice to hear from all of you.
Good luck. Come to be nice.
Thank you all very much. And Paul is in Atlanta, Georgia, as a seasoned 5G or wireless communication expert. Paul, sorry, another time. Today was just one quick word about you. But no, we are not strangers. So let's continue on this good work in the next at least 2 months until we have some framework ready to share with each other. Thanks all.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.